Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program to the Ends of the Galaxy. I think that's what I'm going to call it from now on, is to the Ends of the Galaxy. It'll still say Kerbal Space Program on the video, but it will, I'll call it to the Ends of the Galaxy. So, last time, we just got these two lovely nodules of science, which is survivability and stability. That letter S there, though. Alright, so we got a aerodynamic nose cone, a AV1 winglet, and a radial decoupler, which is what I'm most excited about, because decouplers work as in they drop pieces from your rocket. So this means that we can set it up much easier than we would have before. So, reaching for the stars starts with keeping our spacecraft pointed generally in the right direction, or so says this. Alright, and then survivability, we got this engine, which I like. This is what I like the most out of this, because then we can build upper stages, which are less powerful but more effective for landing and that sort of deal. And it says, the art and science of landing and walking away from it. Well, so far we've done pretty good, but hopefully with these, we can do much better. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a rocket that I'm going to try and get to one of the poles. Probably the North Pole because it's easier to get to, though we'll see when I launch. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an upper stage. We don't have any control. Yes, we don't have any of that yet, so I don't need to worry about that. So this is going to be our upper stage, using a smaller fuel tank and a smaller engine. And if we look here, our max thrust is 50 on this one, where the other one is 215. So massive difference. You're not taking off into space with that, normally. I mean, you could try. I don't recommend it. So yeah. Then what we're going to do is we want to detach the rest of the dead weight, which would be the rest of the rocket. So we add our decoupler to drop the rest of the rocket. Then what we're going to do is grab a parachute, jam that on there, because surviving is good. Right. Also, we're going to add some landing struts because I hope we'll land on land. I mean, pretty daring, I know, but we can try. Oh wait, I need to fix that. Some people like the radial, I like the step because it shows me exactly what I'm doing, not to mention I'm a bit OCD how I build my rockets. So, yeah. There we go. That looks good. Alright, now we're going to build our middle stage. This is what's going to be the bulk of our space flight. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a couple of these tanks right here, and then, oh, there we go. And I'll add one more. And then we'll build our outer stage, which is going to get us up into space. So yeah. What we're going to do with that is we're going to go over here to structural and grab radial decouplers. So I'm going to start with 3 on here, and I'll explain why in a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a couple of these tanks, jam them on here. You got to be careful with this, because if they don't sit on it directly, because like, see here, it's a straight, direct thing. If they don't sit on them just right, it won't detach, and then you'll have a whole bunch of dead weight on your rocket. Right. And we also want to grab these. Right. Sometimes placing is kind of funny in the game, as you can see. So, a solution I've found for this is just jam it on the bottom of your rocket, and you'll be good to go. And then you can grab it again. Oh, this occasionally resets too, so make sure you've got everything right. Symmetry is especially important when you're building space planes, which we may get to in this episode if I can get enough science. I'm not quite sure where the spaceplane parts are in the tech tree, but hopefully they're not too far off. We're also going to add nose cones for looks, because aerodynamics aren't extremely important in the game, but they are kind of important, which is why I'm adding those. Alright, utility. We really don't need any of that. We do, however, want 2 science nodules. So what I'm going to do... Oh, let me grab that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jam them on the side right here, which makes it look kind of funny, but it lets us keep the science, which means we get more science for having a complete craft, quote-unquote. Alright, now I'm going to grab another 3 radial decouplers and attach them to here. Yeah, there we go, okay. Attach them like this in between the other 3 in order to add a solid rocket booster, because they provide a lot of thrust, which is what we want at the beginning of our launch in order to get into space. So, yeah. So now that we have staging here, and I actually remembered, what we're going to want to do is first these 6 will fire, but I don't want that. I want this to fire, and then if needed, we'll fire that. Then we'll want to separate, we got to look in here really carefully. We want to separate these first, and then those. So what will happen first is we'll drop the SRBs, or solid rocket boosters, and then we'll drop these once they run out of fuel. Then we want to fire our main engine, which is the center one, and after that runs out of fuel, we'll decouple that, and we'll want to fix that. Yeah, if you launch with your parachute in the same of any of these, things go bad. Let me just put it that way. When I was earlier in this game, I had a bad habit of doing it, and bad stuff happened. Alright, we're going to use the same trick before, which is using the struts and the decouplers in order to minimize damage to the rocket bells, which are these bits right here. So yeah. And we're good. So, wait, where are those? Where are those? Those are right here. Wait, what? Wait. Oh, wow. Staging issue. That's okay. So we're going to grab these 2, and then this one, and drop them all on the same stage. And we're going to call this the Polar Lander. Actually, we'll call it the Polar Express, because we're going to try and get that up there pretty quickly, because I'd like to do all of this in one episode, because I don't like leaving you guys hanging. So yeah, we'll save that and launch. So yeah, one of the things about Kerbal is it's much smaller than our planet, and so trying to get around it is kind of weird sometimes. Alright, everything is looking good. Oh, wow, that kind of bounced. I wish I had struts. Alright, so we're going to first... Oh my. Okay, we're going to have to do this funny. Alright. Yeah, okay. So I just about had an error there. So what would have happened is we would have dropped that and then sent that, which could have possibly exploded the rocket. So you got to be careful. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to... Alright, I'm at half thrust, and we're going to launch in 3, 2, 1, go. And there we go. We're also going to activate our solid rocket boosters. Come on, come on, come on. You know you want to work. There you go. And we're going to put our other engines about quarter thrust and let the SRBs do most of the work, because we want to maintain as much fuel as possible. So we'll detach. Oh, overheat. That's kind of normal, so don't worry about that if that happens to you. Right. Alright, so those are in that stage, so I'm good. And we're going to launch here. We're going to drop these now. And clean. Go get away. So those will fall back to the planet and explode, which we're not that worried about. There's nobody else down there. Once we reach about 25,000, let me get up to half thrust. Once we reach about 25,000, I'm going to... Actually, once we reach 10,000, I'm going to cut the thrust. Actually, no, I don't want to cut the thrust, because that will cause us to crash horribly back into the Earth. Let's head to the North Pole because there's more landmass, and if we don't make it, we'll be fine. Should probably also open up the resource monitor and set it to stage only. So yeah, we're doing good right now. Let me zoom in on the nav ball here. Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to point north, obviously. Oh, wow. Drop those, put up the full thrust, and use our main engine. Yeah, so it doesn't look like we're going to be able to make it here, but we're going to try. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the rocket a little bit and try and make it to somewhere besides right above the KSC or the Kerbal Space Center. This would be much better if we had wings directly on the rocket, but we don't, but that's okay. What I may do is once we unlock a certain amount of science is try and build a rudimentary space plane. Oh, and we're on orbit, so let me cut the engines. Save a bit of fuel here. Let's do a EVA. And click on him. EVA report. And we don't get any science, so we're going to reset the experiment and get back on board. To burn a little bit in order to head forward. How is our trajectory looking? Alright, so we're kind of crooked. So what I want to do is I want to fix us. So I'm going to move the rocket over slightly over to this main orange line here, which will point us at direct north, and then rotate the rocket a bit so it's perpendicular or whatever. Yeah, so there we go. We're heading north. We've got quite a bit of fuel. And if all else fails, we'll still get science, just not necessarily at the North Pole. I happen to know that the North Pole holds a lot of science, which is why I'd like to get there so we can get more things quickly, you know. Get all the new toys, all the things. Alright. So, funnily enough, I have it turned on here, but people often ask other people of how you get ground scatter. You can't see it right now, but it helps tell you when you're close to the ground and when you should activate your parachute. Basically, ground scatter is in beta still, or it's a work in progress thing, and it makes it look less barren. A lot of games have this issue with worlds if you're traveling from off-world. Your planet will be rather barren and not really interesting to look at. So what Kerbal Space Program did to combat this is add ground scatter. So technically I could drive or fly straight through it with no ill effects, because it's not actually there, it's just a graphical thing. Alright, I'm going to stop my engine for now and let us adrift. Water, it's really good for you. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and do another EVA. We might be a little too high up to do this, but we're going to try. Yeah, alright, so right here you can see that this is considered a quote-unquote biome, is upper atmosphere. So since we already did that in the last mission, we don't get any science, or zero science, as you can see right here. So what we want to do is reset the experiment and board again, because, yeah. Alright, I'm starting to see snow, and I'm wondering, oh, what's that graphical issue down there? Huh, weird. There's flooding! There's flooding! Oh no! Yeah. Alright, so we're going to point our rocket down a little bit to get more of a vertical thrust, because we want to move forward more than we want to move up. Oh! We have an orbit. Oh, let me shut that off. We have an orbit, ladies and gentlemen. I did not intend to fully orbit, but I don't see why not now that we've got it. I mean, it's a marked thing. It's our first complete orbit. So yeah, my only problem is we might run out of electric charge. We don't have any solar panels or reactors or anything like that right now. We've just got our engine itself. And you can see after you hit a certain altitude, it starts playing ambient music, which I enjoy a lot. I don't know about other people, but I certainly enjoy it. So what I'm going to do here is once we get closer to the pole, is I'm going to burn down. Alright. A thing about flying, you have the nav ball right here, or the navigation ball. And the blue part, you can pretty much assume, is the sky, and the brown part's the ground. This line right here that cuts them both off at the equator is ground level. And then it has different things accordingly. So yeah. It's also got our G-force. If the Kerbal experiences too much G-force, and I've never done this, but I've heard other people do it, you kill your Kerbal, and we don't want to do that. I know I called them victims in the last episode, but I really feel for little guys. They're trying their own space program. I mean, they invented the rocket before the wheel, so true story. Alright, so let me check the orbit map. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Let me time warp a little bit. And let me look. We'll cut it right about 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the rocket. Oh wow, a bit of graphical error right there. And we're going to point down. Just kind of a dangerous thing to do. I mean, we did just grab science in order to point our rocket up, but, you know, things happen. Oh, we're out of fuel. That may be an issue. Let me drop that. And use this engine. I mean, I didn't want to use this engine, but it's alright. I need to get us out of an orbit anyway. So, as you can see, the periaps and the apoaps will slowly... Wait, are we gaining an orbit? Oh my. This may be an issue. I don't know why it's doing that. Not a rocket scientist. So, let me just point straight down. Maybe that'll solve it. Oh, wow. Please hit the surface. Please hit the surface. I really don't want to fling this guy off into space, and I don't want to hit the dark side because it's terrible for recording. It's looking we may do, though. We've got a very awkward orbit. Am I out of fuel? Oh my gosh, I am out of fuel. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to circle around and go into orbit high over Kerbal, and we'll get some science there. I know we'll get science there, so I am going to do a little bit of a skip and a hop through the video, and once we get there, I will get back to you guys. So, see you guys in a minute. Alright guys, just a little bit of update right here is I opened one of the goo things, and since we're in an orbit, we're in space, we got science. So we're going to keep that data instead of transmitting it because you only get a small portion of it. We're going to get a whole 10 science, and I'll meet you guys on the other side of the planet, like I said before. Alright, hi guys. So, we're really close to our, I believe, apoaps? Yes, our apoaps. And I'm about to use the other goo canister, as well as get an EVA report, and a few other things. Now, it's occurred to me, we're out of fuel. The goo feels right at home, and that's 10 science. Cool. So we're going to keep that data. So right now we got 20 data. So, it's occurred to me that we're stuck in space right now. And with electrical charge dwindling, that's not a good thing. So what I may do in the next episode, because we're about out of time here, is use EVA fuel to get him back. And you can see some of the weirdness with KSP and how to get an astronaut back by himself. But I'm going to sit with this a little bit and see if the orbit will naturally decay, which will cause us to land near the pole, which is what I originally hoped, and see if I can get us home that way. If not, if it doesn't look like it's going to, I will do that. But that will be in the next episode. So this has been Engineer. Fly awesomely and fly effectively. And I'm out. So thanks, guys.